Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Oldham County Fiscal Court. I'm Judge Executive David Vogel. Today is the 5th day of November. It's Election Day in the state of Kentucky. I hope all of you here have cast your vote or are planning to go cast your vote after today's meeting. If you're able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
That's the most current version.
Is it really? Okay. Yeah. But it's
If you happen to bring a cell phone with you today, please turn it to off or vibrate, and I'll do that myself right now. And I'd like to ask Sheila Fair, our clerk, to call the roll.
Magistrate Likens.
Here.
Magistrate Tice.
Here.
Magistrate Harrison. Here. Magistrate Greenwell.
Here.
Magistrate Hounds.
Here.
Magistrate Hawkins. Here. Magistrate Dye.
Here.
Magistrate Logston.
Here.
And Judge Vogel.
Here. Having all members of the fiscal court present, this meeting is now in session. Is there a motion to accept the agenda?
So move. Second.
Would anybody like to offer any corrections, additions, or subtractions?
We'd like to make a change on community business. Second reading of the budget amendment.
All right, we'll
Is your
delete
mic
that.
on? Thought it was. Try again. This under community business, second reading of the public hearing. We're going to take it off today.
We'll delete that item. I believe we also have under bid openings, we have a bid opening for work at the Oldham County Pool to be added to this. And under community business, I would like to add the MSD interlocal agreement in that particular place. Any further changes?
Judge,
Yes, sir.
a matter of priority, I wanted to ask our county attorney if we could move the second reading without changing the re-advertising the public hearing.
All right. Mr. Carter?
The answer is, I thought I knew the answer, but I don't.
Okay.
I think you don't have to, but you may. I'll let you know.
All right, we're actually deleting the second reading of the budget amendment because there's a document that is needed from Frankfurt to go ahead with that, and that hasn't been received.
Well, are you passing it to the next meeting, or?
Well, we're pushing it forward to at least one. Right.
My question was,
So if you
does
don't, okay, here's the answer. If you don't set a date definite for the second reading today, then you have to re-advertise it for the next one.
All right, then let's set a date definite as November 19th. We'll move that item to November 19th. Is there a second on that motion?
I'll second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. All right, now I'll ask Sheila Fair, our clerk, to please read the minutes from our last meeting.
October 15th, 2019. The Oldham County Fiscal Court convened at a regular meeting at 2 p.m. with County Attorney John Carter and the following magistrates in attendance: Brent Likens, Wayne Tice, Albert Harrison, Steve Greenwell, Chris Hounds, Stephanie Hawkins, Bob Dye, and Michael Logston. Judge Executive Vogel was absent. Magistrate Greenwell announced he will chair today's meeting in Judge Vogel's absence. Motion made by Magistrate Dye, seconded by Magistrate Hounds to approve the agenda. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Dye, seconded by Magistrate Likens to approve the meeting minutes from October 1st. Motion carried unanimously. Public comment. Recycling Coordinator Becky Zocklin announced the county's annual Household Hazardous Waste Collection event Saturday, October 19th from 9 to 3 at the fairgrounds. Sheriff Deputy Michael Meese announced a joint drug take-back program with Oldham County Sheriff's Office and Police Department Saturday, October 26th from 10 to 2. Locations are LaGrange Fire Station 2, North Oldham Fire Station off Highway 1793, and Oldham County Police Department off North Highway 393. The initiative helps curb medication abuse and helps keep waterways safe. County Administration, Budget, Fund Transfers for Fiscal Year 20. Motion made by Magistrate Dye, seconded by Magistrate Hounds to approve the line item transfers totaling $88,278 for the 2019-20 budget. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Likens, seconded by Magistrate Hounds to approve the funds transfer for the net number of $474,915.80 for the 2019-20 budget. Motion carried unanimously. Payables. Motion made by Magistrate Logsdon, seconded by Magistrate Dye to approve the payables. Motion carried unanimously. First reading, budget amendment, fiscal year 1920. Treasurer Melissa Horn presented for first reading proposed ordinance number 19-2014, amending the existing Oldham County budget for fiscal year 1920 to include unbudgeted receipts from federal drug enforcement revenue, increasing the receipts of police fund by $19,538.50, and increasing the expenditure accounts by $19,538.50. The second reading public hearing will be November 5th. Contract agreements and resolutions. DLZ contract change reallocation of design funds for Old Floydsburg Road project. Motion made by Magistrate Harrison and seconded by Magistrate Hounds to authorize the Judge Executive to sign the contract change with DLZ concerning reallocation of remaining design funds for the Old Floydsburg Road project. Motion carried unanimously. Cleaning contract, Fiscal Court Building. Motion made by Magistrate Likens, seconded by Magistrate Logsdon to authorize the Judge Executive to sign the cleaning contract with Dorota Tazioni relating to janitorial maintenance services within the Fiscal Court Building. Motion carried unanimously. Road Committee accept roads into the county road system. Motion made by Magistrate Harrison and seconded by Magistrate Hounds to accept the following roads into the county road system as read and submitted. Poplar Woods Drive, Grand Oaks Drive, Oakshade Court, Wooded Oak Land, Glory View Court, and Glory View Drive. Motion carried unanimously. Personnel actions for engineering. Motion made by Magistrate Harrison, seconded by Magistrate Likens to accept the resignation of Alan Bond effective October 18th. Motion carried unanimously. Public comment. Jerry Nart announced the county's total burn ban is still in effect. Notice will be sent out through the emergency alert notification system as soon as it's lifted. Announcements. Magistrate Likens thanked Oldham County residents for their patience and support of another Ironman this past Sunday. He acknowledged the frustration of residents, especially those who live along the bicycle route portion. He stated the 45th CAECO conference is next week. Hillcrest Homeowner Association is meeting Thursday at 6:30 and would like for the county engineer, Jim Silliman, to attend. Magistrate Harrison announced that the Kentucky 1488 Bridge project is delayed until spring of 2020. He reminded the community to vote November 5th and to participate in the census count, which begins April 1st. Magistrate Hounds stated the county's total burn ban is still in effect and an announcement will be made once lifted. Encouraged everyone to get out and vote on Election Day. Contact the county clerk's office if you're unsure where your voting location is or if you have any other questions. Magistrate Hawkins announced the Parks Committee met today and reviewed several upcoming events such as the 5-mile run, wood songs, and Santa event. See county's website for more information. Magistrate Dye announced census workers in Oldham County are canvassing this month to verify addresses. They are required to wear photo IDs provided by the Department of Commerce. Magistrate Greenwell encouraged everyone to get out and vote November 5th. Fall break starts Friday, October 18th for Oldham County Schools. Motion made by Magistrate Hounds and seconded by Magistrate Dye to adjourn the meeting. Motion carried unanimously and the meeting adjourned at 2:43 p.m.
You've heard the reading of our minutes from the October 15th meeting. Is there a motion to accept?
So move.
Second.
Are there any changes? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Are you abstaining, Judge?
Yeah, I did abstain. Good idea. Right, I wasn't here, so I didn't have any telepathic idea of what was happening. So, although sometimes our meetings are broadcast live on Facebook or Channel 25, and could have looked. I wasn't here last week because Kevin Nuss and I were in Washington attending a two-day conference that had to do with broadband expansion in the country, and we're very interested in expanding our broadband service in Oldham County. We have a couple of carriers now that provide this service, but we're interested in trying to attract additional carriers. We've also, if you followed Fiscal Court closely, realized that we bought 26 miles of additional fiber optic cable through the Kentucky Wired system. When the Kentucky Wired came through, they brought through our fiber optic cable at the same time. And so we're in the process of developing a plan to try to exploit this advantage that we have and learn how to get cable out to the areas in the county that aren't served at all, or fiber optic cable, and have broadband service, or better service for places that have it, or less expensive service for those that have something. So there's a lot of activity on the national level going on. I did find out that we're more fortunate here in Oldham County than you might anticipate. Some places don't have any service at all. Places that you may not actually sense would be in that position. One of them is Boston. They have a lot of high-rise buildings, a lot of hardscape, concrete. People can't get signals in there because cable companies are not able to dig up the right-of-way. It's too expensive to do. Same with Alexandria, Virginia. Listen to the mayor from that city, said they don't have good service there at all. Those are a couple of places that you just sort of automatically assume had the best of what might be out there, but they don't. Sonoma, California fights broadband. They won't let any towers or signal in there. There's a lot of discrepancy across the country, but there are some amazingly interesting places, small places, where you might think we're off the beaten path, but actually are quite progressive when it comes to expanding the service for the constituents of those communities. So we're taking a hard look at this, trying to maximize our investment, get better service for everyone in the county, those that don't have it, those that do have it, and maybe we'll come out with a less expensive service as well. That's our goal, and that's what Kevin and I were doing last week, and why I wasn't able to attend our last fiscal court meeting. Actually, I just realized I was wrong about that. We didn't have a meeting last week. I was in Florida. That's why I wasn't at the last meeting.
Senior moment.
I totally forgot about that. I got broadband on my brain. So, well, anyway, that's where we were last week, even if you didn't have a meeting.
Well, Mr. Biden, I'd like to ask you a question. At your Washington trip, can you, for the people in the county that don't have any way of getting cable now from our cable provider because it's too expensive per mile, is that going to give them some hope in the future?
Yes, that's exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to attract what we call final mile providers to the county. We think our high-speed access that we bought and our fiber optic cable is going to give us a strong leg up. There was surprisingly, we heard about Microsoft is doing things with television towers. We have a tower in our county. They have signals that are going through trees and bushes and through obstructions. SpaceX is about to launch a number of satellites that have a downward service that I guess you'll put a stick up that looks like a stick with a pizza on the top, and we'll be able to get transmissions that way. There are a lot of ideas out there. We're trying to get our brain really wrapped around this thing, and I think in the future we're probably going to have to bring in someone who is an expert on the development of this product to really carry it out, because it's going to outrun the expertise of Kevin and myself pretty quick. But we see what's out there, and we felt our trip was very justified and worthwhile, because and really it's the future. At one time, some of us remember when we maybe had a party line phone or no phone at all. All of us have lived with electricity, but at one time there wasn't electricity. People didn't have it. It didn't all expand out at once. People got it slowly over a period of time. Broadband is probably in that same category where it is extending out. Not everybody's going to get it at once, but we certainly want to be in the group that moves forward as fast as possible, because it's a huge economic advantage in attracting new business to your community. So I apologize for being wrong on where I was. Guess that's the last thing in my mind, but
Well, maybe it won't be on CNN tonight, okay?
I hope not. I hope not, you know. And I don't know how old Joe Biden is. Is he, he's about 80, isn't he?
He's too old.
He's too old? Well, well, the average age on the fiscal court, of course, a couple of people are dragging it down,
down.
but there's a few of us dragging it up here. So. All right, let's go on now to, do we have anybody who's come here to address the fiscal court and public comment? Well, come on up, Russ. We welcome Russ Morris, our farmer's market
Yeah,
manager.
Russ Morris, 2912 Maple Leaf Drive, LaGrange, Kentucky. I'm the farmer's market manager, and I'm here representing the farmer's market today to thank you for the use of the courthouse lawn. We had a very successful year. We bombed out on the last day because of rain, but thank you. We noticed a big difference in our customer base, a lot younger group and what have you, which means a great deal for Oldham County. But again, thank you, and hopefully next year we'll see something a little different, but we'll live through it. Thank you.
Right, you're going to have to be a little more creative for the next couple of years because I think the
Well, we
courthouse
always
square is
have
going to
been.
get fenced off at least sometime in your season, if not at the beginning.
Well, hopefully the main sidewalk will not be.
Right, well, I don't know, you know,
Yeah.
can't make any promises,
You
right?
got
I'm sure the sidewalk won't be, but probably everything else will be.
Thank you.
All right, Russ, thank you for everything you do, and I know you're up every Saturday morning out there, and we've had good crowds, and appreciate everything you've done to try to move that activity forward. Is there anybody else who'd like to address fiscal court? All right, seeing no one, I'll close public comment, and we'll go on to the first item on our agenda today, and that is the opening of bids for the patching and resurfacing of a quality place. All right, this is from ADC Paving of Louisville, $57,023.61. Hall Contracting, $62,774.95. Libs Paving, Floyd's Knob, $64,499. Louisville Paving, $54,628.10. Mack Construction, $55,118.91. Riverside Paving, $82,863.97. Wingham Paving, $64,715.06. Pardon? 6 cents.
Judge, what was the first bid?
First bid was on the bottom there.
57,023.61.
57?
57.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we thank all of our bidders. We'll take a look at those, and I guess, will we be determining today, Magistrate Greenwell, who gets the contract?
We will not award this today, we will not.
Thank you.
Judge,
Yes, sir.
just a question. That convenience store and apartments they're gonna build there at the corner of Quality and 146, looks like they've just stopped. Is there something going on there?
Not that I know of. Jim Urban, Jim Silliman, do you have any information about the activity there? The IGA store and the apartment buildings?
Did a lot of work, but I mean, it wouldn't be a rain delay for sure. I mean, just we've only had rain a few days, but it seemed like the equipment hadn't moved at all.
Well, they have most of the site work, if not all of it, done. They've seeded and strawed, and that's for the apartments.
Yeah.
And I think they're just waiting on
Next contractor?
starting to get building permits.
Oh, okay, that answers my question.
Yep. And then on the IGA, what I understood was that their intention was to build sometime starting in the fall, which we're in that season. They are working with us on Quality Place and getting that paved. I know that they have purchased the property and still intend to put their store there. I know that they did just finish a store over on Billtown Road in J-Town, and so I'm not sure if we're next or whatever. We haven't heard anything.
I was just curious. I hadn't seen the equipment moving a week or two, so. All right, well, thank you.
All right, thank you. Now we'll go on to opening bid work on the pool rehabilitation or reconstruction or remediation or something at the pool, okay? And we have one bid, Phoenix Pools, Louisville, $41,344. Okay. Give that to Melissa, and so we'll come back with that, all right? Those are the bids. I thank everyone who participated in helping us provide these services.
Judge,
Ma'am.
excuse me, the Phoenix Pools bid will go to the Parks Committee, and we hope to have it next fiscal
All
court.
right, thank you. Under county administration, we have our bills to pay. Tab A. When you're ready, we'll accept a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded that we pay these bills for the prior 2 weeks. Are there any questions about the expenses?
I have one, Judge.
Yes, sir.
On page 5, General Parts LLC, there's $3,861. I've already questioned this, but that's for the appliances at the detention center. They should be under warranty. I'm just curious, and Joe's going to look into it, but I just want to make sure that we look into the warranty coverage on that, because those parts on those types of appliances should be covered for, well, I just want to make sure. Okay, so
Okay.
I'd like to take that off, or at least get some idea that we're going to get it looked into.
Do you know anything about it, Melissa?
I do have a copy of an email from Ms. Susan Williams with professionalreps.com. I'm assuming she's working on this. It says the factory is saying that this unit is still covered under warranty. That was the last communication.
Okay, all
So
right.
we will pursue the
Okay.
warranty claim.
What caught my eye was the fact that it was a detention center. I knew all that stuff was new down there, and I didn't want to let one to slip through.
All right, we're talking about the cooler or the fridge?
Both items,
Both.
the fridge and the cooler, are both under warranty.
Right, they haven't been in there that long.
Yeah,
All right, thank you.
all right, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. I do believe we have, the jailer's not here today, but we've made good progress on getting the locks repaired that have been malfunctioning there. Can't think of the name of the company right now from Arizona has provided I believe all the equipment's here. They have to provide somebody to come in and install it. And Joe Kelly will be monitoring that person and learning as much as he can from the installation of those new locks. And they have agreed to pick up all the costs, so there's
Installation.
installation and equipment. Right. So now we have some surplus property to approved for disposal. Deputy Judge Nuss.
Good afternoon. You have before you several items. There are 7 vehicles, and 6 of those vehicles, I'm asking that they be surplused and sold at public auction. One of the vehicles is a 1999 Ford E350 van that belongs to the Oldham County, it's assigned to the Oldham County Police Department. That vehicle we would like to donate, and I'm not sure which, but a local fire department so that our arson unit can use that. I think Magistrate Hounds may have more information on that.
I do. We're trying to work out the logistics on that, but it would be taken, if it is available for donation, to one of the fire departments and then assigned to the arson task force. Probably either South Oldham or Bellersville.
And then the other property is just some miscellaneous equipment and other items, the bicycles confiscated or found by the police department, road chipper, a couple of generators at the road department, this blue trailer and accessories that's assigned to the recycling department. That was actually dropped off by a resident who thought we might have some use for it a couple of years ago, and it has just set in place for about the last 2 years. So I'm asking that those items be surplus as well and sold at public auction. And then a little bit back, you'll see another sheet of paper that shows items that we had surplus last May that had never been sold at auction. So I've just given you that for information. Those items have already been surplus by the court, but they were never sold. So we're just going to add all these together and have a public auction. I'm not sure if we're going to do govdeals.com or if we're going to do an actual live auction. We're going to work on that in the next couple of weeks to figure out what avenue we will get rid of this property, but asking today that all this property be surplused.
The trailer is the one you're talking about, the tractor trailer? that
No,
was dropped off?
no, that has belonged to recycling for many, many years. The floor is rotted out of it and is just not any use for us. It's the blue trailer below that on the left-hand column. Just a little small trailer.
Oh, okay.
Magistrate Dye.
All of the police, all the equipment's been stripped out, police equipment and stuff like that, cages and light bars.
It will be before they're sold,
And
yes.
de-stenciled and all that, yeah, okay.
Working on it now.
Okay, I'll make a motion, we surplus this material.
Second.
Discussion, Magistrate Greenwell.
Thank you, Judge. Kevin, on the last page, there's a 2001 Dodge Dakota, and unless my eyes are deceiving me, that's not a Dakota, that's a Ram.
Yeah, that was surplus in the May. That was a stock picture we used back in May.
Okay, just as long as
But
we
it
get
is-
the
it is a
description right.
Dakota, yes.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Any other conversation about this surplus material? Magistrate Tice.
Let me just ask one question about that vehicle. What's wrong with that vehicle?
Which one?
The one that he was talking about, the 2001 Dodge Dakota or whatever?
I don't remember now, but it was surplus back in May of a year ago. May of 18, that vehicle was surplus by the court. I just attached that today. It's been sitting at the road department since then. I don't recall what was wrong with it.
For anything at all?
Isn't that the one that had the bad engine?
I'd be going by memory if I said, I don't recall. I just remember it was surplus back in May of 18.
Well, there was one that we were looking at putting an engine in, and they said, don't do it. I thought that was the one.
Could be very well be it.
Okay.
Any other comments? Right, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, on community business, we inserted here the MSD interlocal agreement. We had intended to have this item on the agenda today, but because of a email distribution problem, not everyone on the fiscal court received the information in a timely manner. Maybe at least one person may not have received it all yet. Have you, Magistrate Greenwald?
Today, I got it.
Today,
Yes.
right, okay. So what I thought we might do for those that, we'll put this off. I think we would like to have a date that we can call a special meeting to come back together and have a vote on this. But I'd like to see if there are any questions that any magistrates have today that may have had this material that Mr. Clark can address. Okay. Of course, this interlocal agreement is the second of three steps to achieve a unification with the Metropolitan Sewer District. The first step was passed earlier in August by the court, was a memorandum of understanding. This interlocal agreement just lays out the details of the memorandum of understanding, and then the final step will be a sale of assets. So I'll let Mr. Clark, he's been working very diligently and with the members of the Metropolitan Sewer District and the Oldham County Environmental District, and legal representation on all sides. So I'd like to, if you'd like to address the court, go ahead.
As you know, the memorandum of understanding, I would describe it, that was like the working path that we agreed, these were the general terms, and in that agreement, we agreed to come up with an interlocal agreement. And part of this is because we are government agencies, this is not like selling a house, whatever. There's certain things we have a way to operate, and we're subject to Kentucky revised statutes and stuff. And since this is Oldham County and Jefferson County, we have to come up with what they call an interlocal agreement of how we allow to work together. The interlocals are encouraged to help regionalization and help do what's best for the citizens that may benefit from two counties or two entities, two government bodies working together. And so that's where the interlocal agreement comes, and it's also to put, and it's more of a binding, this is our true intent, we've been looking at what they call due diligence, and so MSD's asked for a ton of information, trying to make sure, that they're kicking the tires of the car, what they were getting. They've been out, they've visited all the sewer plants, they've looked at lift stations, they want to see the quality of what they're getting. And at the same time, they've done it legally and financially because they want to know what is the debt, what is the attributes of that debt, and we've been working on that. And then down to, and unlike a lot of asset sales, utilities are everywhere. You got pipe in the ground, you got easements, and you go under roads, and you've got tentacles all throughout. So there's a lot of pieces. Plus, at the same time, the sewer district is dynamic. It's still working every day. So things are changing, and so the agreement, in a local agreement, some things like on debt says this would not to exceed this, not to be this, because we still have debt payments. And some of the interest payments that OSEA makes are monthly payments. So those numbers will go down. But the intention is, they're going to assume the debt and whatnot. So then the reviews, MSD's attorneys looked at it from, protect their thing. OSEA, and our sewer district, used White, Tarrant, Combs. They've looked at it to make sure with their understanding, and they attend all the board meetings and lawsuits and stuff going on. They looked at it to protect OSEA and make sure that we're covering all our bases. And at the same time, our county attorney, John Carter, looked at it to make sure we're not obligating fiscal court to do something it cannot do. In other words, case in point, we can't really sell some of the rights and easements, as we call them, where people have given rights to put a pipe through their yard. That can't be sold. And so, therefore, you get a lease, and that's why we have to look at that stuff. And so, when John Carter went through it, there was MSD didn't care. They said you either lease, convey, transfer, whatever we needed to do. Well, now it just says lease, okay? Because why put choices when you can only do one thing legally? So, it's been reviewed. There's been some pretty serious discussions along the way, arguing over different words and what they should say, but we've gotten agreement to this point. So now this is basically the legalized view. It's the memorandum of understanding put into a legal document where the next part of it is the actual bill of sale and the asset purchase agreement, which is, that's where you get down to the real detail. And it'll be as detailed in what you have. The appendix B is like a map of all the sewer assets. It shows where each manhole is and pipes in between. The asset purchase agreement will say Ash Avenue manhole 1, 2, 3, you know, and different things. And then obviously the deeds, all the property, real estate that the sewer plants sit on, deeds and stuff. So it'll be more of what your structured bill of sale purchase agreement. But this is the terms, the interlocal in front of you is the terms that MSC is going to operate the Oldham County residential customers on, or in commercial, how they're going to operate out here, what the agreed order is, what rates are going to be, and whatnot. I'll take any kind of maybe general questions, and then when we meet again, you know, we can really get down to answer any questions anybody try to answer. And just remember, there's, you know, asking about something 10 years from now, I can't really answer what might happen. Legal questions, John Carter's here to help with those. The financial part of it, I'm pretty familiar with. And so I'll try to give you my best answer that I know. So,
Anybody have anything they'd like to ask at this time? Manager Tice,
I've got a couple of questions, Stan.
could you move your microphone a little closer?
I'm sorry. One of them I thought was just kind of peculiar, and it was 4.2. It was talking about this contract would only be for a period of 50 years. Once it's gone for 10, 15 years, it's like a done deal, isn't it?
that's maybe quite, we cannot sell them some stuff, so we have to enter a lease, okay? And so we're leasing, and so it's the old, how long do you make your lease? Do we make it 99 years? Do we make it 25? Or in this case, do you make it 50 and automatically renew and stuff? Because they own all the assets. You don't want it back, but we can't legally sell them all of this stuff. So that's where the lease comes
Kind of a
from.
lease
I
deal.
mean, that's my layman's interpretation.
And that's fine. The other one that I had a question on was 6.1.2, and it was talking about where the time frame started as of June 30th, 2019. And I think the debt structure was effective as that point of the interest. We're going to be 6 months down the road in a round number before this thing comes. So is Oldham County Sewer going to be picking up the interest for the next
we had a
6
couple
months, or is that going to be prorated so it balances outright?
Well, they're assuming the debt, whatever it is, and we're using cash that's coming in to pay that debt. So the CAECO interest is monthly. We had some GEO bonds and stuff that were due in October, which were paid, and then we got all the KIA infrastructure, big numbers coming up here December 1. So all those will be paid, and that's why we saw at the same time, a couple of the numbers in there, there's a couple loans that the sewer district is still drawing money down on, okay? Because we're still working on getting the lift station from Friendship Manor to Ash Avenue and keeping that project going. And so there's a contract out, and so what's in the agreement is I went through what the bid was, what engineering fees were estimated to be, and I added $150,000 or so to, and said this amount not to exceed, okay? So it's dynamic because we still have to operate the sewer district and keep it going.
I figured you'd probably looked at it, but I just didn't understand it exactly. Give me just a second. I've got it marked of 6.1.3, and it has something to do with the obligation under the creed order dated March 13th, 2000, between OSEA and the Kentucky Energy and Environment Cabinet. Let's see. Oh, that was the decree order that they had on the Ash Avenue plant and some of that.
As you know, we had an agreed order, and our sewer district agreed to do certain things and we built a new plant was part of it, and it was spending millions of dollars to get plants offline, package plants offline. And so where the sewer district is at is it's completing everything except the last step, which is take Ash Avenue offline, which is supposed to be offline by next August per agreement. And then we had one little final project, which is just wrapping up, that Kentucky Division Water hasn't cleared yet, but it's done, it just needs to be signed off on. So what's going on here is we've met, we being MSD and Horace Herrick from
Yes.
OSEA, and talked to Kay down there and agreed. Basically, they're going to say, OSEA, you met your agreed order because the last step of it, Ash Avenue, MSD is going to sign agreed order that they're responsible for it. as
And they're
part
gonna
of this
take
deal.
that.
And they're going to, and then there'll be no agreed order left, subject to, for OSEA. And it's also, as we go to the next step, there's several things in this agreement that has to occur, such as getting Kate out to agree to all that. They verbally have agreed, and then assignment of some leases. We lease the plant at KSR, and so we need to meet with the Department of Corrections and get them to let us assign it to MSD. So there's several steps. The next step, this is almost like once we get all this hammered out and approved, that triggers the next step of, signing debt, signing leases, and going on to the next work.
I've got a couple of more notes, but while I'm bringing myself up to speed, if anybody else got any questions, I'll.
All right, we'll give you a break here for a second. Magistrate Hounds.
Stan, I know you and I have had a couple of these conversations, but just to kind of get the stuff out in the open, part of the reason that we're doing this is a money saving for the ratepayers.
Correct.
And one of the comments or questions that we had or discussion is, what is our cost to continue the service as it is now? So in other words, like you and I were talking, you've got to, if MSC doesn't take the flow out of Ash Avenue, then we've got to build the pipe that goes from Holly Gibson.
Right, because of this tentative agreement, the MOU that we approved, we're working on in May, the sewer district did not raise their rates this year for the first time in some while. The main thing is, the agreed order basically is telling us that we have to take Ash Avenue and put in a $6.5 million pipe to take it over to the new plant. And we have to put in a lift station, and then we'll have an annual operating cost of a lot of electricity to power the lift station and maintain it and stuff. What this does, hopefully that pipe never needs to be built because it can go by gravity to a manhole that MSD's got basically at the Shelby, Oldham County, Jefferson County line and feed into the Floyd Spark plant. That's going to have some cost, but it's about a $4+ million savings of money of not building a pipe you don't need. That's part of the advantages of a regional approach, is because right now, when you draw a line, you may have water draining downhill into Jefferson County, but we're pumping it uphill to one of our plants. Now we can work together and let gravity do a lot of the work. We save the cost of lift station, maintenance, electricity and stuff. So that's a big part of the savings. If we didn't have this potential thing, we would have had to raise we would have had to add to our flat rate about $6 a month to cover the additional borrowings we would do for just this pipe. And then in each year we also have inflation and chemicals costs and stuff going on. And so the customers are already seeing the benefit of the potential deal by the fact that we didn't raise rates.
And one other thing I thought about later today, do we need to have, I guess in the next step would be an addendum to the Veolia contract, because the contract is with OSEA to provide the services. Will there be an addendum that's needed for
The
ST to
Veolia contract is assignable, and we can assign it, and they have to, if it's reasonable, accept. We've talked to Veolia about buying them out and buying out the contract, and could not negotiate. So they have been notified that, by legal letter, that we wish to assign it. They are having discussions of what that means. And there's not going to be an issue with it being assigned, but in all honesty, Viola is concerned that maybe their methods of operating procedures are different than MSD. And they've had discussions such as, well, who do you follow? Do you follow MSD's procedures, or do you follow what we're contracted for? And the answer has been, you're under contract, your contract says you're going to do X, provide X manpower, and that's what you're obligated to do, is provide that. And if MSD wants to do something different than what's in that contract, then you surcharge them or say this is outside the contract. Just common sense stuff. So that's being worked through. But it's not so much an addendum as just an assignment of the contract to MSD.
Okay.
Magistrate Logston.
I guess my question is, you're talking about Ash Avenue. Under the agreed order of March 31st, 2016, it's saying that completing collection systems, lining and cleaning portions of Country Village and Ash Avenue. Well, if they're not going to be held to that, what's going to happen to Timothy Way or Country Villages?
All that lining, to a tune of a little over $1 million of lining pipes and all those things, has been completed.
It has been?
Yeah, that's part of the agreed order that OC has completed, and the Kentucky KDOW hasn't signed off, but, we'll send them a letter. But Robinson Pipe, we had a $1.1 million contract with them to do all that lining. They cleaned the pipes, they relined them, and we reduced the I&I as per, more so than the agreed order. We went above the agreed order.
Okay.
Magistrate Greenwell.
Thank you, Judge. Stan, you said a while ago that we hadn't raised rates this year for the first time in a long time, and that's true. What was the reasoning you gave as to why that didn't happen?
Because a couple things are beginning to, development's booming a little bit out here, and so we've had some rate increases and a little more customers. That helped some of the inflation, and we didn't borrow money that we had planned to borrow, because we didn't need to borrow. So we actually had with the KIA, we had a loan agreement that we had X date to execute, and we let it expire, okay? But being conservative, in case this deal doesn't work, we got back in line for the next year, just in case, because the work, if we land up having to do it, we're gonna need the money to do it, okay? But we let it expire, so we didn't borrow the money and stuff. By doing that, KAI, what they do when they give you these loans, they say, your rates must do this, they look at our financials and say, you have to maintain this 1.1 ratio, and here's what your rates. And they've told us in the past, you gotta raise your rates 6%, 7%. Sometimes I disagree, saying it doesn't need to be that much, but they're the ones loaning the money. But not accepting that agreement, we weren't subject to raising those rates to cover it. They wanna make sure we have cash to pay them, to pay the debt. And that's,
Well, that borrowing was for the pipe, to run pipe from Ash Avenue down to the new south, or what do they call it, north-south?
South
South Oldham
Regional
Regional Treatment Plant. Well, that was a $6 million project that wasn't done in anticipation of this agreement.
I understand that, but I mean, Art Henson sat right there and said for the first year that we didn't have to raise rates because we finally are realizing tap-on fees. One from the development there on 393, which was a substantial amount of money. So it seems to me like we've worked ourselves out of this problem. And for the first time, we're starting to see a situation where we may not have to raise rates. And it kind of seems to me like we're getting ready to hand a very desirable package over to somebody just whenever we've got it to the point that we could handle it on our own.
okay. Capacity fees are to pay for capacity, okay? And the sewer district in the past has used capacity fees to operate on. A little bit of what's going on right now is the same thing. We should have raised rates maybe 2% just for inflation. Chemical costs, electrical costs went up quite a bit commercially, 7-something percent or so. That doesn't sound like a big percent, but it is when you have $360,000 bills total a year. So because we have the cash in the bank, we said, look, let's do the best we can not to raise rates at this time. But if we don't do this deal, major work has to be done at KSR for that. And so those capacity fees we collected if we spend them now, they're gonna have to be spent for KSR, and we're gonna have to raise money and get additional funding to fix the KSR plant, because as the Buckner area continues going, as Curry's Crossing, the one that paid that huge capacity fee, comes in, they're gonna tap out the capacity at KSR, and we're gonna have to build for future capacity. There's plans and it all can be done, but it all costs money. And as the customer base goes, it spreads a little bit, but you know, you go out and borrow $6 million and you got 6,000 customers, it still adds, you know, $1 a month, you know, to a customer when you finance it. And we're getting interest rates have been very low. We're getting 1.75% on most projects from KIA because the neighborhoods we're serving qualify for the low interest. So we're trying to do the best we can with what we got, but yes, capacity fees help for a while, but then they really eventually need to go to build that capacity that we need. And eventually Country Village and a couple of them, and not maybe in the next 5 years, but 5 to 10 years from now, they have to come on offline. And Mockingbird is another one that has some major issues even now. And it doesn't, you think, oh, we'll just run a pipe from Mockingbird current plant to KSR. The bid came back at 2.1 million, so we didn't do it. We're going to try to fix the plant where it is and, you know, save money. So, and, you know, yeah, I just advise, you know, if you've been attending meetings and seen all the issues, sewers are major capital investments and they take a lot of work, and we still have old lift stations that break down. KSR, we've had major breakdowns of the rotors over there, and they turned out to be 40-year-old French rotors that we couldn't get we had to go to France to freaking get them to make the rotor that we need over there. And the rotors are one's from German and one's from French. You know, these are things that drive up cost. And, but yeah, we did a very fine line not to raise rates this time around, trying to do the best we can for the customer.
I just think that I wish we would have had a chance to do an interlocal agreement with MSD 14 years ago, because that's when we were in dire straits. And just through a whole lot of help such as your own and a whole lot of, you know, just doing the work ourselves, we've worked ourselves out of that bad situation of 14 years ago.
Right, and I agree with you, and rates are probably higher out here than they would have been with hindsight. But I can tell you that board, Horace especially, I sat in meetings with MSD back then where we begged them to work a deal, said we didn't have to build the new plant, the arch grass and all, and we could not negotiate anything close. We always had to look at what's best for the ratepayer out here. And at that time, some of the demands that they made, what they had to be paid and stuff, it was just impossible. Our rates would be much higher now. If we had let them have arch grass at what they wanted, I can't even tell you how high our rates would have to be. So it was actually cheaper to build a new plant than to take the flow to Heights Creek. It was,
I remember
it shouldn't
that.
have been.
Yep.
But I mean, I sat in the meetings, and I think the judge, when we were negotiating on this memorandum, said they actually, one of their people apologized for what was going on there. Because they didn't want to do a deal.
Brian Bingham, when we were in that meeting at South Oldham Firehouse,
Yeah.
he apologized and said that never should have happened.
But it did happen, and you have to deal with the situation you got at the time. And it's been a lot of pain, and the biggest pain has been the customers paying those rates to pay for all this, so.
Manager Tice.
One more question, Stan. The debt for OSEA is 30, in a round number, 30 million, payout over the period of time, about 36 million. We, as Oldham County, have had to guarantee some of that in order for them to get the low rates that they've gotten so that they could get those loans. At the end of the day, will all of the assets from OSEA going to MSD bought up so that Oldham County government will not be holding the bag for any indebtedness? Or if so, do you know how much we might be holding the bag for?
That's an issue going on. my goal has always been to get all liability of death out of here. The GO bonds, there's 3 of them, and I'm not gonna quote amounts because I'm head
Don't need
spinning.
to.
But a part of the debt is guaranteed, and we were able to get 2.08% on that GO 2014, 10 million, because of the strength of Oldham County. OSEA at the time couldn't even borrow money.
Yes.
They were financially upside down. So those are the things fiscal court did to help the sewer district turn around. We're on the hook for that GO. GO means that general obligation, our tax revenues back it up, okay? MSD is willing to assume the payment of that debt, da-da-da. But it's still gonna be in fiscal court's name until they either take it out and pay it off, or it goes to term in 2032 or whatever year, you know. So I'm gonna be honest, the KIA seems to be willing to work with us and transfer those to MSD. We're working on CAECO, which is one of the very original loan that got the sewer district going, $1 million something left. We're working, we think they're gonna be able to work through. But the GO, the problem is, one of the GOs is a refi of a refi, and we're not allowed, you can't refi it anymore, okay? And so, it can't, you know, it can't be dealt with. And so, what I'm hoping someday, and the way this IL reads, is that, well, not the IL, but some of the things, the discussions I've had read is, they're gonna assume the payments and make the payments to the pays, just like our sewer district's doing. And they have the right to refi this down the road, but they're not committing that they're gonna refi it and take us out a year from now or ever, okay? So there's gonna be indefinitely for the life of the loans, and I can dig that up for our meeting to tell you when we will be out of risk of that. But what right now, just to be upfront, you know, we'll try to secure that debt, work it out as best we can in the assumption agreement. And MSD will be obligated to pay, it'll be legally binding to pay, but, you know, we'll do our best to protect fiscal court's interest.
Well, if they're willing to assume those debts, those
Right.
GOs, whether they pay them off now or take them to term, doesn't make any difference to us because they're making the payments on them.
Right.
And the only thing I was getting at is that they would were going to assume to take all that debt, and I don't think they're gonna go away. I mean, if they go away, then who do we have in sewer in this whole region? So, yeah,
and-
I'm okay with that. I just
Okay.
was in hopes what you said is that they were gonna take all those debts from us, and then we would, as a county, would not be obligated anymore.
And just one other thing going on here, Harmony Dam is not part of this agreement, okay? That entity remains because they didn't want the liability of Harmony Dam, which is estimated $1.5 million or higher. And we're working with the dam lady in Frankfurt right now as to what to do with there, and it's being studied. But MSD has agreed to allow OSEA to put in a bank account, a trust amount to handle Harmony Dam. So there will be a fund left over for Harmony Dam to mitigate it, deal with it, whatever, because it's, you know, it's a high hazard dam by the state statute, and they're demanding, you know, certain things like homes be bought up or something, or the dam be, well, they want it to be breached, but the homeowners around there don't want the dam breached, and we're doing everything we can not to breach the dam, leave the dam there. And so it's very much in process, the Harmony Dam. But what we're doing with this deal is going to put money in a bank account to handle Harmony Dam, that will be left. And they, as part of this dealing, is they're not taking 100% what's in bank accounts. In fact, the money that we're going to put in that trust is about $1.8 million.
Judge?
Magistrate Hawkins.
A couple of my questions were answered. One was regarding Harmony Dam, and you said $1 million will be put away.
$1.8 million.
Okay. The Harmony Dam thing's gonna be, I think, a lot more than that?
I don't know why.
Okay.
We've gotten reports, there's been studies done, there's been a proposal made with Frankfurt, for lack of a better thing, as to methods and stuff, and there's been some cost to it, and then hoping it can be done for a lot less than that, but there's different ways to handle it. And when you look at cost, somebody said, well, it's X for this, and what you gotta understand, you don't add them together, because if we do certain things, it's no longer a class, I may be wrong, they call it class C, as a hazard. And if we do certain things downstream, it becomes class B, then we don't have to spend $500,000 on the dam to fix it. And so there's different ways, and like I say, experts have been brought in, Wyatt Tarrant Cones have been used to research legally obligations of what has to be done and stuff. But the intent is to try to save Harmony Dam, leave it there, and get it off the high hazard list.
And then MSD would take over that area?
No,
Okay.
no, that's an asset then will be, perhaps the Harmony Landing Homeowners Association will take
Okay.
ownership of it, or something, some entity will take it, the dam, once the issues are resolved.
And in reading this, is it pretty much saying OSEA will stay intact for 30 years until the debt is paid?
Now, if you look at the agreement, that's what MST wanted, but,
I didn't see where it transferred over or name change.
what it is, OSEA, we've agreed to leave it in place for 180 days, okay? After that time, fiscal court can decide it created it, can terminate it. But when you create an agency and you do 100% of the vote, when you terminate it, you assume all assets and liabilities that are left, okay? So fiscal court, after 180 days, after the asset sale, can decide whether to maintain OSEA, who would have no revenue, no real reason to continue to have a board and meet, or whatever, or dissolve it.
And then that $30 million debt would be fiscal court's debt?
It is today. It's not 30 million. Okay, the KIA, the intention is KIA and KCO goes to MSD. The GO bond, the only thing fiscal court's on today is the KCO and the GO bonds. The KIA is in the name of OSEA that's being transferred. So we will still be on a GO bond. Our exposure will not go up as part of this deal, and if we can get KCO assigned to MSD as we're working, our liability will actually go down, exposure maybe $1 million to where it is today.
Okay, and another question. After the 5% per year, I'm going to the rates now, 5% per year, and then they equate with MSDs. After that, it's up to 6.9% increase per year via MSD, unless they want to raise it higher. Then that goes to Metro City Council to decide that for our ratepayers. Is that correct?
Right, but you're probably getting 10 years out, because it's going to be a while before our rates equate, because that's just to let people know, this agreement freezes the rates through 22, and then on August 1st of 2022, the OSEA residential customers' rates will go down $10. Then from each August 1st forward, they're going to be allowed to raise them up to 5% per year, and do that until they equate MSD rates, which they've been doing 6.9, so they've been raising rates. So if you project that out in 10 years or so, the rates will be the same. If MSD raises their rates sooner, higher, get council permission to go 10% or 4/10s or whatever they've asked for in the past, the rates will equate sooner, okay? But that's the way it works, but it's probably a number of years out before this rate out here finally, instead of being 50% more than MSD rates are today, will actually equal.
Will we have any representation of Oldham County with MSD, or, if Metro City Council raises so much, even in 10 years, there's no recourse to not elect somebody from Metro City Council again. So there's a little bit of a disconnect of recourse for them to look out for Oldham County citizens. We're not represented.
Well, I think the judge, the MSD board is subject to legislation of, how it's set up and who, and the board members are.
The MSD board is set up based on senatorial districts. Ernie Harris, although I don't believe he has, is able to that district is able to select someone to be on the MSD board. Initially, I was in favor of trying to get somebody on the MSD board until we went down there and we met with them and we realized that we're going to be a small piece of the puzzle here, okay? We're certainly invited to have an observer or someone come to the meeting and make comments, but I don't think anybody from Oldham County is going to want to go to meetings and be listening to sewer talk about Cane Run Road and Dixie Highway and be involved in all kinds of issues that have really no relationship to Oldham County. And that's really what would happen there. You remember our MOU, our Memorandum of Understanding that set that out, also said that MSD would come back to Oldham County if ever rates were in this county were ever to be increased more than 6.9% and ask for fiscal court approval to do that. So that was part of the MOU that was set out initially.
Is that in the agreement?
It's in the MOU, Memorandum of Understanding.
Would that be part of the agreement?
Well, I think MOU is part of the agreement.
Yeah, the MOU will be incorporated, and that's one of it's incorporated.
We got
in
three
there.
pieces to the puzzle. One is the MOU, the other is the interlocal agreement, the third is the asset sale. So those three pieces are part of the puzzle.
Judge, I agree with you. I mean, what you just said about, but you know, the whole reason this is gonna go on for 50 years, and what we are today is not what we're gonna be 25 years from now. So, you know, we might not want a representative now, but 25 years from now, who's gonna look after our interests? That's my only problem.
How many MSD customers are there? 200 and something thousand?
287,000,
And we're how many customers?
6.
6,000.
And they have commercial customers such as UPS, and
Right.
their top 10 customers individually are multiple sizes of our whole.
And I understand what everybody's saying about the rates, and I'm very sympathetic to that. But one of the things I think you have to look at too, or I was looking at the other day, the medium income in Oldham County is X. The medium income in Jefferson County is X minus. If we raise the rates in Oldham County, I'm sorry, if MSD raises the rates and it flows into Oldham County, no pun intended, that is going to affect their social economic as well as ours. And we're fortunate to be at a higher level than they are. So I think that Metro Council, I would think, past performance has said, they're looking out for their ratepayers to make sure that they aren't being taken advantage of. You know, I understand getting a seat on the board. I understand that. I think that makes good sense. But again, I don't know what the percentage is, but 6,000 versus 200,000 is not real high.
Small.
It's small, yeah. Thanks.
It won't always be that small.
I don't see Oldham County customers increasing at the number in which we're going to get to 200,000. You got 60 to 70,000 people that live in Oldham County. You've got a lot of places where there will never be sewers in Oldham County because it's cost prohibitive to run the pipe. You go out to some places out towards Magistrate Greenwells.
I don't know how you run the business, but they have to be getting something out of this or they wouldn't be doing it. So they have to be looking at growth to be able to pay for something. That's the way I look at it.
I just don't see there's going to be that much growth in our county.
I got a comment on that. That plant that's less than probably 500 yards from theirs. It's a state-of-the-art plant. They can't build it for what we built it for.
You're right.
And most of the people on how many people is on that plant out of the 6,000? How many people is on that? Or how much flow, I'll put it that way. They don't care about people, they care about how much flow you
It's
can.
at about 30% capacity right now, because it
It's
took
30% capacity, well, how many more could they take?
Probably can take another 1,500 customers or more, depending on, I'm guessing here.
Yeah,
but
right, I
A whole
understand.
lot more than it has today, because it's at a very low percent of capacity today. It's built for growth, it's built for the Fiscal farm and anything else that may develop that whole area over there.
Right. It's, for those that have been to the plant, I've been there and I've been by the settling tanks on the top, and the tanks are they're not even a quarter of the way full. And they're supposed to go all the way to the top, and there's 4 of them.
Yeah, and it was built to handle all the flow from the Ash Avenue area that come over there, which if this deal goes through, that flow will not go there, will go to Floyd's Fork, which leaves even more capacity available for development in that area.
And you had the problem with I&I. Goes right along with it, because a lot of areas that we have over there, there's a lot of infiltration that's not even it's stormwater mixed in with the gray water's mixed in with the black water.
Right.
So, and that's what they have to also, that you're treating rainwater, which if they stay out of it, they could treat more sewage.
I think that's part of the attraction to to them getting, our system is getting that facility.
It's on the county line. As movement comes across the county line further towards Crestwood, that's what they want. They're not going to build a pipe from LaGrange out to our plant.
No.
In off of Hit Lane. That's the attraction.
Manager Harrison.
Thank you, Judge. I want to clarify a couple things before I get into my question. This is not a 50-year contract. Somebody's not reading the entire paragraph. It's for a period of 50 years, and it will automatically renew unless one of the parties files a written notice of intent to terminate. So it's an unending contract. It's a 50 followed by a 50 followed by a 50 followed by a 50. I don't think we'll be here then. I don't plan on it. But I believe that's what it says. That's what I read.
Yeah.
There's
It
also,
can't be terminated in the 50 years. You're being picky, and I understand what you're saying, but it's a 50 plus a 50 plus a 50, but any one part can terminate it in 49 to 50. And
The intention is we're selling them assets and they're taking over operation. We can't sell it certain things to them, so we're leasing them with an automatic, because we would have, in 50 years, there'll be no reason for us to terminate this lease and not let it automatically renew. I mean, because they'll have all the assets and the revenue, so, okay.
all right, the other point of confusion is over the dams, and there's some dam confusion over the dams. We've got 2 lakes over there, and each lake has its own dam. The lake we're concerned about is Harmony Lake. The other lake across 1793 is Harmony Landing Lake. That's got nothing to do with us. They're on septic tanks, sewers won't be over there. So the dam that we're concerned with is the one for Harmony Lake subdivision, and that's how the subdivision got its name back in the 50s. So we're kind of confused the two, and you've got a Harmony Landing Road and you've got a Harmony Lane over there too. So when we just say Harmony, it doesn't really cover it, but Harmony Lake is the one we're concerned about. Speaking of which, that gets me to my question, and I'm concerned about the easement language that's in here in section 9.2 and 9.3. It puts a burden on us if somebody finds an unrecorded easement. I don't know how you find an unrecorded easement. That's like asking the people who are not here to please raise their hand. If it's recorded, it'll be there in the abstract, or we'll find it, but they're putting the burden back on us entirely.
Well, that's been a big negotiating point all through there, because I hear you, and I very much was concerned about this. So what I have done is who I am, I went down and I found every recorded easement I was competent to find, okay? And MSD is written in here, they think there's better people out there, they specialize in the business, abstractors, fine. We've agreed to bring in this abstractor and look. And at the time, I was like you, I said, well, how can you find a missing easement, okay? How would he, when he's looking at these public records, determine that? As I was doing the process, it became obvious to me, case in point, I was looking at Goshen Utilities when we bought them. Then I realized they agreed to run a pipe from their plant to Hunter's Ridge. And to do so, they had to go on the north side of 42 and bring it up there. And there's like 8 properties that they had to have easements from. And so when I was doing my research, I found all 8 of those easements. And if one had been missing, I would have said, oh, there might be a missing easement here. Here's a property with the pipe going through it, okay? That to me is how you might doing a search of public records. But the main thing is we bring in the abstractor, we being OC, pays for the abstractor, he reviews and he signs off, and if he was to determine there was a missing easement, we have the language in there that we need to go knock on some doors, try to get that easement, do whatever we have to do. But then it's done, okay?
Yeah, but in the beginning, we're not selling the farm.
No.
We're selling the farm unless something shows up that we don't know about. I don't understand that. That's not fair. You know, either they buy it or they don't buy it. And this is one of the contingencies. And I think you're looking in the right place, because I'd be looking at Goshen also. Because we were heavily involved in that in the 70s when they were putting the sewer lines in. And it would not surprise me one bit if there's a missing easement over there. That's just the way things were done back then.
But the language gives MSD the right, they say, if they find a missing easement during this abstractor's review, and we either we do it, or they live with it, or we provide it, get it and provide it, or they walk away from the deal, is basically, in a layman's term, what that language in there says. That's it.
I understand, that's what I read. Over one little easement, they could walk away from the whole deal.
Well, then you have to ask, will they, on one little easement?
Have to have what?
Will they walk away because there's a pipe and an easement that we don't have? You know,
That's what it says.
well, they can, they may, okay.
Right.
So if they find an easement, they come to me and say, this property on 42, you got a pipe through it and you don't have the right to do that, okay? Then we immediately will send our engineers and stuff out there, OC I'm talking about, to try to get that easement and work a deal with that landowner to put in place what should have been there, okay? But, you know, and we also, you know, if the landowner may say, you know, I don't want to give you an easement, move your pipe, you know, and then you may have to say eminent domain and all that language is in there, so.
But I understand that, and that's what I'm reading. That's exactly what I'm reading, and that's why I don't like it. There ought to be a better way of wording that than what's in there. You know, this is all one-sided. It's unilateral in favor of MSD. Doesn't help us a bit. Because we bear all the legal costs if it has to go to litigation over something we don't own anymore, maybe.
Anything that the abstractor finds, okay? If an easement is found missing after this deal goes, MSD bears the cost. The reason is, my understanding, John Carter, is that MSD doesn't have the right to do eminent domain in Oldham County. And that was one of their concerns. So we're agreeing that if down the road they can't get an easement and they can't work it through and do the normal course, which 99% does, and they have to go to eminent domain, fiscal court is agreeable to doing that at MSD's expense. You know, they have to reimburse us, because again, John Carter told me, we can't spend fiscal court's money for MSD, another agency, and so he added that to the agreement for that.
But I'm not reading any of that. What you just said about reimbursement.
Well, it's probably in two spots. There's, because the one addresses the current list of easements and what we've got, which is the section you're looking at.
1017.
1017's,
At the expense of MSD, it's the 4th line.
I would call it 1017's after the deal's gone through and the asset purchase has been completed. Then if there's condemnation in the future, we agreed that if we agree that it's needed, we've got language that if MSD determines it's needed and fiscal court, this body here agrees that's needed, then, you know, we'll go do the condemnation, but they have to pay for it.
Everybody understands and agrees the concept that quote-unquote an interest in real property is equivalent to an easement. Everybody understands that.
I don't know about
But we don't call it an easement until we get to here. I mean, every place else is an easement, now it's an interest in real property, which could be an easement, but doesn't say that.
Okay, all right, good point. All right. Okay. Point taken.
Ask, please.
Nancy
Second
Greenwell.
question- Oh, I had one more.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
On 10.1.4, it reads, MSD shall supply all employees necessary and qualified to operate, blah, 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 blah. Well, I guess naturally they would, but this is in the same area where they're talking about employees in the next paragraph of OSEA. So I don't know what it means when it says shall supply. I mean, most employers would supply.
1014.
I wanted something that, the 10.1.5 basically says they're gonna hire the current OSEA people but I'm not sure that agrees with
Well-
10.1.4.
I asked for 10.15 to actually be removed. OSEA has no employees. They have a contract with Viola who employs all the people, okay? They're assuming that contract, and, you know, I know MSD is probably intending to offer jobs. In fact, they've told us they would love, they think the Viola employees.
Tony Parrott stood right there and made that comment.
What?
Tony Parrott stood right there and made that comment when he was out there.
He really wants all of them. I mean, they're great employees, okay? and they
And those
want
two
them.
need to be cleaned up.
Okay, well, how would you say that?
I don't know, I'm not writing it, it's confusing. You said it's confusing, I agree. They're addressing employees of OSEA, and OSEA doesn't have any employees.
Yeah.
Can we change it just to be the Veolia employees, or
That's
Veolia? Because you're right, that was one of my questions. OSEA doesn't have any, they just have a board.
Yeah. I'll have to get back. 'Cause like I say, I asked for it to be removed because there is no OSEA employees.
Right.
And I think it's some interlocal agreement clause that, and I'll get an answer, that you have to make this statement in this, when you do an LLA, that you're not harming current employees or something.
Well, I would like for it to stay in there and substitute Veolia for OSEA. That was my question.
Can't do that because we can't tell Viola that, in other words, we can't tell Viola has a contract that where they've agreed basically to provide the employees they feel necessary to operate it, and stuff. That's what their contract says. And they have moved employees around and do things with them. So I don't know if MSD or OSEA can tell Viola what to do with their employees.
Well, they're not telling them what to do, they're just ensuring the employees, they will not be laid off or fired as a result of this action that's being taken or proposed. I don't see what's unfair or unreasonable about that.
Because it's a contract between the Veolia and the sewer district. They're not employees of
I
the sewer
understand that.
district.
You can still make a statement you're not going to do anything to employees of Veolia. If they choose to do something, that's on them, but MSD is not going to come in and clean house of a bunch of good people. That's what I'm looking for. I'll fight for that, because these are some
Well,
really good people.
we've been over that with them, and they don't have any intent, they say they have no intention to
Okay.
do that.
I'm
They
just trying to think.
want these experienced people with this system
Right.
to be there. But
MSD is agreeing to assume the contract with Viola, which is where the employees are, John.
I just want to say, this agreement is for 50 years. A period of 50 years and shall automatically be renewed for a like term, which means another 50 years, unless a party to this agreement gives written notice to the other parties of an intent to terminate.
I think that's what I read.
Yeah, well, it's not for 50 years. It is for 50 years. And then it's an additional 50 years unless one party within a year terminates that agreement, and then it won't go for another 50 years. But it is for 50 years.
If nobody says anything, when does it end?
What?
If neither party says or writes anything, when does it end?
100 years?
Well, no, that's not 50 then.
That's true. That's what's in here. I mean, that's,
Not renewed, it just keeps going, John.
and I can't find where where anybody transfers property in fee. The 5.1.4 accepts out real property owned in fee.
Judge,
Sir,
we're not voting on this today, correct?
correct?
And I haven't seen the whole thing because I just got it today, so I'm just asking some basic questions. Is it legal to enter into an agreement whereby our citizens don't have any representation? In other words, if we don't do a good job on election day, they can throw us out. But if MSD doesn't do a good job, if Metro Council doesn't do a good job of reining in MSD or keeping an eye on them, they can't vote Metro Council out.
That was what I said.
Well, I might be out in the deep water here, but I'll just say that the legislature passed, a bill allowing agencies in one jurisdiction to acquire agencies in other jurisdictions. So your representation, when you fold into that, we're not going to, it's not that we don't have representation, it's just that we're going to be represented by the people who are appointed to the board through the senatorial districts. And that would be our representatives. We don't get the sense that there's anything cunning or malevolent or anything other than trying to do a good job with MSD. The state has a desire to have regionalization of these types of services rather than a lot of people doing their own thing. The economy of scale reached by having a larger organization. We deal with KU here. Who's our representative on KU? Or the
Louisville Water's
Louisville Water.
We do have representatives on the Louisville Water Board.
You do?
Yes,
do?
yes. Dennis Dibble, Paula Gish, and there may even be a third one, but I know there's two for sure. And that's a
That's
utility
news.
that serves Oldham County, but yet there's two members at least on that board.
I accept your statement there, but it's news to me,
Oh, they're both on the board, I know that.
And
The answer
I
you-
believe they're on an advisory board. I don't believe they're on the actual voting board. I believe they're on an advisory board. And
That may be.
we certainly, MSD welcomed any, let's say, a person that we may, or persons that we may appoint to be advisory representatives of Oldham County to their board meetings. That's never been an issue. And like I say, initially I wanted somebody on their board. I thought that'd be a good idea. But when I got down there and I started seeing all of the complications and decisions they make that have nothing to do with Oldham County at all, I thought, well, somebody's not going to want to come and talk about, J-Town and West Point and Cane Run Road, and they're just, there aren't going to be that many decisions that impact Oldham County. But I do believe the sincerity of the people we've dealt with, that they are very open to having advisory members from our area come and speak their piece.
I'm not trying to throw cold water on this, I'm just asking the questions that I think probably our voters would want us to ask.
Well, possibly. I will say this, and I'm not trying to throw anything back. This has been out in the public for 6 months, okay? I haven't had one ratepayer call me and object to this. I've had a number of things to say it's a great idea. I've had one person contact me with an objection to this, and when I got into it further, the person was on a septic tank. It wasn't anybody that's paid, 10 cents of sewer service ever in this county. So, and I'm not trying to negate anybody's argument here, but 50 years from now, not a one of us is going to be sitting here. We don't know what's going to happen in 50 years in Oldham County. We're trying to steer our boat in the right direction while we're the crew managing the ship. But other people will come in here and replace us. Decisions are going to be made. Things are going to happen. We really can't reach out and control what's going to happen that far out. I think we have to leave it up to our successors. If something arises that's not acceptable, to raise the specter of what that is, or try to reach a conclusion, versus us trying to psych out every single thing that could possibly happen in the rest of our lives and the lives of the ratepayers. What I'm most interested in getting to right now is rate relief for the 6,000 people that are paying considerably more than they pay in Jefferson County for the same service. Once you turn on your sink and you turn off your water faucet, most of us don't care where it goes or who handles it. We pay for that service and expect it to be clean and the least cost that we have to incur to achieve it.
I would like to point out, one of the interlocal agreement requirements is that when you have an agreement, you create a joint board, okay? Sometimes they don't function. There's been a joint board that was created with the ILA when Crestwood in 1996 was done. How often it met, I don't know. But Section 13.1 says administratively, the county judge and the MSD designate, there is a board for administering this understanding, okay? How well it performs, how active it is, how often it meets and stuff is just determined just what's demanded of the board members. But there is a mechanism for a board of, Oldham County Fiscal Court and MSD for administering this agreement. That's in here because LAA requirements require that you have a mechanism.
Magistrate Harrison.
Thank you, Judge. Stan, who owns the land where our treatment plants are located?
Most of the land, it varies, is owned by OSEA.
So we do have property in fee simple,
Yes, and it's to be.
and that will be
sold.
transferred in fee simple
Now, one of
to,
your exhibits will list all those properties, and then one of the exhibits has all the real property listed. Okay. And some of it is, in the MSD, some of it is where the plant is located. We have the right to do it, but if we remove the plant, we have to give the property back. So there's deed restrictions on some of it, but there are fee simple. There's quite a few pieces. I think Ash Avenue is like 13 lots.
not everything's an easement.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Magistrate Hawkins.
Would it be a problem to vote on this next fiscal court meeting, which would be November 19th?
Well, not necessarily, but I would like to have a special meeting either Friday or one day, Tuesday through Friday of next week at 2 o'clock. I thought we could kind of talk that out. In other words, we're trying to keep this ball moving forward. And we just don't, I don't think, several days of looking through this isn't going to make anybody more expert or less expert or probably change too many points of view. I mean, I told Mr. Parrott at MSD that we put him off. Now, we have had small things that have been discussed, where a period goes, what's a comma, are we going to have this word or that word as a conjunction word? There have been things that have strung this out, but I don't want to have to call up there and back up again. I've already backed up. I hoped that we could do this today, but then we found out that our communication system had a breakdown when we changed the email protocols or whatever it was, and so it's not fair to ask anybody to not have several days to look through this. But
Judge?
2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, I don't think it's going to make a difference.
Judge, I'm prepared to make a motion. We have a special call meeting next Tuesday at 2 o'clock and invite Mr. Parrott and/or other people from MSD. I'm not making that. I said I'm prepared to make that if that seems agreeable.
And I will
Well,
not be here.
what I'd like to say is that I need to call him to, rather than us, I'd like to get a sense of the board as to what day would be acceptable, and then I'll call the meeting, but I need to confirm that he can be here.
Well, could I make the motion this Friday or next Tuesday?
Or next Friday?
Stan just said he's not going to be here Tuesday. Did I hear that?
I leave Tuesday for a week.
Well, change your plans. Come on.
Would you be
Can I
back-
get reimbursed for a bunch of airline tickets that I bought
Well,
6 months ago?
What about,
Friday.
can we do this Friday? Is that 3 days from now? Is that too soon?
I can make that motion.
I'm good.
2 o'clock Friday afternoon?
I'll make it good.
Okay, well, if Steve's got a problem, I want to make it in the.
I had, no.
Well, how about if we go midday or something?
If it's agreeable with the rest of the court, 10 or 11 would be fine. But I can skip for 2 o'clock. I would have
Well,
had to for
I
today's
mean-
meeting if we'd been in school.
But I mean, we could certainly try to, how about if we go for 11 o'clock? Can everybody make
Should be.
11 o'clock?
I may be
Friday
late.
morning? Pardon?
Maybe a little bit late.
Okay,
not be able-
11, noon?
John said he may
I
not.
may not be able to be there because I have juvenile court that morning.
Okay, all right. How about noon? Do you get out, what time's that end?
I never know. Sometimes it is and sometimes it's not. 2 o'clock I can, but
Well,
Good with two.
later,
hate to,
No.
okay, well,
if y'all set it out, I'll see if I can twist Travis Combs' arm to.
okay, well, how about if we try noon? Would that okay? Maybe you'll be finished, it'll be okay, it'll work for you a little better, won't it?
It'll be better, but,
Talking about Friday at noon?
Yeah, Friday at noon. Friday at noon, can we do that?
Should be.
All right. Pardon? I'll have something here for you to eat, let's put it
If
that
it's,
way.
if that's agreeable to Mr. Parrott.
yes.
Yeah, right,
Right.
right, that's
If not,
subject,
then the
subject to
19th.
asking him to come out here.
Do we have an alternate if it's not?
Oh, we like Stan to be here too, that's.
I understand.
Will you be back by fiscal court on the 19th?
I have an airline flight back that morning. They're supposed to get me in at 12:45.
Wow.
We
Way to
haven't
put
looked at
margin
next
in your
Monday.
schedule
It's
there.
American Airlines.
Monday?
Well, Monday is, I've got a problem, Monday's
That's
a
a
holiday.
county holiday.
That's a
better.
holiday, but I have to read a meeting in Frankfurt Monday morning. And myself.
It sure is.
Let's try Friday at noon.
Okay.
And we'll see if Mr.
Second.
Barrett can make it. This coming Friday at noon, right. Okay. We'll post that. All right, but let's go on now, and Belinda is standing up, so I think she wants to be next. I'm sorry, Belinda, come on up. Belinda Demas here is going to talk about the sidewalk project again, that we've been talking about this project for years.
We have. I'll put this up just so y'all have an idea what we're talking about. So, what we're talking about is the 1793 sidewalk project, which is right here in the front of the Ridgeview subdivision along Highway 1793. This is the bid award and contract for construction of the Kentucky 1793 sidewalk project with Louisville Paving Incorporated in the amount of $191,000 utilizing federal SLO funds. The bids for this project were open in March of this year. Because the low bid exceeded the funding available at the time, we waited to award the bid until the needed additional funding was in place. Last month, Fiscal Court signed the agreement with Kentucky Transportation Cabinet to accept the additional SLO funds needed for the project. And KYTC returned the agreement to us last week, so we're ready now to award the bid and move forward with construction. KYTC has reviewed the bid and concurred with awarding the bid to Louisville Paving. We're asking Fiscal Court to award the bid to Louisville Paving Incorporated and give Judge Vogel approval to sign the agreement that was included with the bid.
Make that motion, Judge.
Second.
All right, moved and second, I'd be allowed to sign this contract with Louisville Paving for the 1793 sidewalk project. Any discussion about this?
Judge,
Sir?
if we do this vote and it's affirmative, I figure they'll have it done tonight. That's just how Louisville Paving does.
I mean, we'll give them 3 or 4 hours.
Okay, all right.
Well, they won't have it quite that fast, because we're going to have a sidewalk superintendent. We're going to have somebody out there to inspect their work,
Oh,
part of the thing, so won't move quite that fast. All right, any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion
Aye,
carries.
nay, whatever. Me, I'm opposed.
Okay, you're opposed, all right.
Thank you. You corrected me last time, and I'm trying to remember it this time. Thank you. I'm trying.
You're not walking on much sidewalk these days anyway, are you?
I just would love to see the sidewalk, but to go through this and see this amount of money being spent, I just can't bring myself to do it, irregardless whether the money comes from Washington D.C. or from Oldham County. I just can't stand it. Excuse me. He asked me, and I had to get off my chest. Excuse me. Thank you. Yes.
All right. Well, not everyone can see your more mobile contraption behind the dais here. Wayne injured his foot and has been hurting for weeks, I guess, so.
I'm in pain. That's
Yeah,
it.
you're in pain. Okay, thank you, Belinda. All right, now we're back to our second public comment. We're moving on to 3:45 here, and pretty much don't have too much left for the meeting. Is anybody here who would like to address the fiscal court? We're happy to have Larry Brown here today from the governor's office visiting, and nice to see you, Larry. Thank you for coming. All right. So we'll close public comment then, since there isn't any, and see if our magistrates have any final thoughts. Magistrate Logston? Nothing, Judge. Magistrate Dye?
Nothing.
Okay. Magistrate Hawkins?
Nothing today, Judge, thank you.
Magistrate Hounds?
I'm going to break it.
Oh, good.
Just one comment, if you haven't taken the time to go out and vote, please go out and vote. Polls are open until 6 o'clock.
All right, Magistrate Greenwell?
Nothing, Judge.
Magistrate Harrison?
Thank you, Judge. Repeating again, start paying attention, watching for information on the 2020 census. Just some dollars to make sense of the census. In 2016, more than $15.8 billion came to Kentucky as a result of the 2010 census. And for every person here who is not counted, it could cost the county a potential $2,000 per year for the next 10 years in revenue we do not get. So it's real simple. Get there, be counted, fill out the questionnaire when it comes out. You can probably do it in 10 minutes. This year, for the first time in history, you can do it online. So you can even do it on your cell phone, on a smartphone. But this goes towards funding critical programs and services, including SNAP, Head Start, Medicaid, CHIP, Section 8 housing, highway construction, and much, much more. So we need to get our share. For people who may be concerned about the government being too nosy, nobody cares that you came from another country. They don't care how you got here. They don't care when you got here. They care only about where you spent the night on April 1st. Because if you had a roof over your head in this county, you need to be counted in this county for us to benefit from it. Military days between now and next fiscal court. The 10th is Marine Corps birthday and Marine Corps Day. And of course, next Monday is Veterans Day, the 11th. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Nothing, Judge.
Magistrate Tice, all
Thank
right.
you.
Magistrate Likens?
Thank you, Judge. Just like to say, vote today. A lot of people gave their lives so that we could vote today. And I just hope that whomever or whoever, I never was good at English, wins the elections today, that they unify and come together and do what's best for the citizens of Kentucky.
That'd be whoever.
All right, thank you. Mr. Carter, you have any parting words here?
No, Judge, I have no words of wisdom.
I would like to thank everyone in the community who participated a week ago Saturday in the prescription drug take-back event. We had 2 locations in the county, manned by the sheriff and the police department. And I also believe maybe one other group participated in that. Can't think of, might have been the hospital, Healthy Oldham County from the health department. We had the third largest poundage of prescription drugs come back in, and the number escapes me right this second, but a lot of them turn back in. People are getting this idea, don't leave unused prescriptions at home, where they can be found by children, grandchildren, or any other neighbor, whatever. So turn them back in, let's get them off the streets. Kentucky's doing a good job. We heard last night the President say that we're having success in eastern Kentucky. That's tremendous. Eastern Kentucky, southern Ohio, western West Virginia, some of the most heavily impacted areas in the entire country in regard to drug abuse. We've got to stop these opioids. The distribution, Oldham County is participating in a nationwide lawsuit, class action lawsuit. We were one of a number of counties that signed on to this at the beginning. Consequently, a lot of people piled on, if you want to put it in that perspective, including attorney generals and local communities are doing their own thing. We're sort of in the back of the bus on this. We're a small county in relation to some that are out there seeking reimbursement for the expense they've incurred fighting opioid abuse and jailing people, doing law enforcement activities. Nevertheless, we're keeping track or trying to keep track of the expenses that we have in our county associated with opioid abuse, and may possibly receive something in a class action distribution that's under consideration in Cleveland at this point. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, one way or another, thank you for turning your drugs in. We'll have another one of these in the spring and do it again. Is there a motion to adjourn? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.